Hi everybody, Mrs. Danielson here, and today we're just going to review our 6 basic trig functions of a right triangle. These are things that you've learned in years before now, but we need to review them before we move on with our pre-calculus. So we're going to take just our basic right triangle and we're going to do some reviewing of our 6 basic trig functions. These are sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, secant and cosecant. We're just going to work on those today with our basic right triangle. So here I've drawn a right triangle. You can see our angle, the opposite side, the adjacent side, the side next to the angle, and the hypotenuse. And we're going to start just by talking about sine. Sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse, the ratio over those two sides, opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine of that angle is the ratio of the adjacent side to the hypotenuse. Remember we had so, ka, so is S-O-H, ka is C-A-H, and then we learned tangent, which was toa, T-O is opposite, and adjacent, SOHCAHTOA. There we had our 3 main trigonometric ratios. And then we learned, or most of us have learned, I hope, the reciprocal identities for those 3. The first one was cosecant. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So it's going to be hypotenuse over opposite. It's just reciprocal, you just flip it. And secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So just go ahead and flip that ratio and you'll get hypotenuse over adjacent. Okay. Cotangent, which is the reciprocal of tangent. So it's going to be adjacent over opposite. And there we have our 6 trigonometric identities for a right triangle. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to take just a basic little right triangle to start off with. We're going to make this one a 3, 4, 5 triangle, one we see quite a bit. Let's make that a 3, a 4, and a 5. And let's just start by finding out what the 6 ratios are for this right triangle. So if I want to know what the sine is of that angle right there, it's going to be the side that's opposite that angle, which is a 3, over the hypotenuse, which is a 5. So the sine of that angle is 3/5. Cosine, instead of the side opposite, you use the side that's adjacent, which is 4, or 4/5. And the tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite is the 3, adjacent is the 4. Okay, now for the other 3, you have some options here, right? You could, for instance, for cosecant, what is the hypotenuse? It's 5. Opposite is the 3, so it's 5/3. But of course, we already found the sine. Because we already found the sine, we can just take its reciprocal, and that's 5/3. And that might save us a little bit of time. And secant is the reciprocal of cosine, and we already found the cosine, so we can save ourselves a little time by just taking the reciprocal of cosine. And cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, so you can just take the reciprocal of that. And there we've found all 6 trig functions of our 3, 4, 5 triangle there. Now, we don't always get all 3 sides when we're given a right triangle. Maybe we're only given 2 of them. We need to find all 6 trig functions. Well, to do that, if we want to find all 6 trig functions and we're only given 2 of the 3 sides, let's say we have, a 3 for the hypotenuse and a 2 over here on this side. But I don't know what that 3rd side is. Let's say again, we're using this angle right here. And I want to find all 3 trigonometric ratios To be able to do that, I'm going to need to know the third side. So what method do I have to be able to figure out what that third side is? The easiest way to do it is actually using the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem first to find that third side of the triangle. And once I have that, then it's really easy to find all 6 trig functions. So to use the Pythagorean theorem, right, you're just going to plug in 2 and 3 into your Pythagorean theorem and solve for that third side. Okay, so we're going to do, let's see, that would be the hypotenuse, 3 squared, would be equal to 2 squared plus x squared, right? So that would give us 9 is 4 plus x squared. Moving that 4 to the other side, we'd have 5 equals x squared. And x would be plus or minus the square root of 5. Now we know it can't be the negative square root of 5 because this is a distance, it's the measure of that side. So it's got to be only the positive answer, the positive square root of 5. All right, now we know all 3 sides of our right triangle, right? The bottom one is the square root of 5. And now we can find all 6 of our trigonometric functions. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and write in our angle here as well. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That's going to be 2 over 3. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is the square root of 5 over 3. And tangent, opposite over adjacent, which is 2 over the square root of 5. Okay, now that has a square root on the bottom. How do we feel about having a square root on the bottom? We don't love that, do we? So we do need to change that. We need to tweak it a little. Okay, and the way we do that is by rationalizing the denominator by multiplying the top and bottom by a square root of 5. And that gives us 2 square root of 5 over 5. And that's the best answer. Okay, now for the other 3, right, the cosecant, that's going to be the reciprocal of sine, and secant, well, that's the reciprocal of cosine, but there's a problem there. It's got a square root in the bottom, right? So you got to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 5, giving us 3 square root of 5 over 5. Okay, and running out of space here, sorry about that. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite, which is square root of 5 over 2. And there we have our 6 trig functions. There's 1, 2, 3. There's the 4th one. There's the 5th one. And the 6th was secant, and it's right there. There's 6 of them. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're going to give you one more here. I'm going to have you do it, and you're going to push the pause button and do it on your own, and then we'll see if we come up with the same answers. So again, you're going to find all 6 trig functions for this right triangle where 8 is the hypotenuse, 7 is the adjacent side. We don't know that third side. Let's just label it X for now. And you're going to find all 6 trigonometric ratios. Okay, so we're going to pause the video for a second. You're going to find the third side of that triangle and then find all 6 trig ratios. When you found all those, then push play. Okay, all right, did you solve the problem? Let's see if we came up with the same solutions. Okay, so we're going to use Pythagorean theorem to find that third side right? So that's going to be 8 squared is 7 squared plus x squared, or 64 is 49 plus x squared. Okay, we subtract 49 from each side. That's 15 equals x squared, or plus or minus the square root of 15 is x, but length can't be a negative 15, or negative square root of 15, so it has to be positive square root of 15. Okay, so now we have all three sides of our triangle, right? We have positive square root of 15, we have our angle, we have an 8, and we have a 7. Okay, now we're going to find all of our trig functions, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So square root of 15 over 8, and that looks good to me. I'm happy with that. Okay, so that one's good. Okay, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is 7. Hypotenuse is 8. That's good. I'm happy with that. Hopefully that's what you guys got. Okay, let's do tangent. Okay, tangent, TOA, is opposite over adjacent. All right, square root of 15 over 7. Okay, hopefully we're still on track and doing a good job. Okay, let's go ahead and do cotangent next, because we're right here next to tangent. Cotangent's a reciprocal of tangent, right? So it's going to be 7 over the square root of 15. Don't like that square root in the bottom. We've talked about that earlier in pre-calculus. So we need to get rid of that square root on the bottom, right? So that's going to give me 7 square root of 15 over 15. Okay, there we go. We got rid of that square root in the bottom. Okay, now let's do cosecant. Okay, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, right? So that's going to be 8 over, well, we're going to need to give ourselves a little bit more space here. See if I can squeeze some of this in. It's going to be 8 over the square root of 15, but there's that square root of 15 there. So we need to do the same thing that we did for cotangent. Get rid of that square root. Cosecant gives us 8 square root of 15 over 15. If we could simplify that, we would, but we can't simplify an 8 and a 15, so that's going to be it. And then the last one is secant, reciprocal of cosine, which is 8 over 7. And we're done. And hopefully that agrees with everything that you had as well. Okay, and that's it for today on finding the 6 trigonometric functions of a right triangle. Hopefully you're comfortable with it. It's something you've done before, so it should be a good just review for now. Thanks, everybody.